Ever been playing a game alone in the dark, only to end up genuinely regretting it? You know, the kind that makes you jump at every sound and check over your shoulder for hours afterward. Well, I put myself through that nightmare more times than I can count. And today, I'm sharing the 10 scary games I absolutely regret playing alone. Get ready, because these are the ones that truly messed with my head. Playing the Maid left me with a heavy sense of regret that lingered long after I turned off the console, settling deep within my mind. Unlike many horror games that rely on cheap jump scares for quick thrills, the Maid builds an almost suffocating atmosphere of psychological dread by skillfully tapping into a profound sense of isolation within its intricately designed Victorian mansion. From the moment you step through its imposing doors, every creak of the old floorboards beneath your feet, every faint whisper echoing through the empty halls, and the eerie sensation of being watched by unseen, malevolent forces intensifies when you're experiencing it all alone. There's no one to share a nervous chuckle with, no one to validate the fleeting shadow you think you saw, and no one to pull you back from the edge of rising terror. The regret stems from willingly diving into a story that slowly, almost imperceptibly, chips away at your sense of safety and sanity, all without another person to help shoulder the weight of its oppressive atmosphere. The game's true power lies not in grotesque monsters, but in its ability to make you feel utterly vulnerable and isolated against a sinister presence that doesn't necessarily inflict physical harm, but instead relentlessly preys on your mind, just as the developers warned. As I cautiously navigated its long, dark hallways, gently opened each ornate door, and unraveled the unsettling mystery of the mansion's history, the experience dug deeper into my psyche. After finally setting the controller down, the Maid left me with a pervasive sense of unease, making me question every shadow in my own home, jump at the faintest unexplained noise, and truly regret inviting such a disturbing and psychologically invasive presence into my solitary gaming experience. Playing Five Nights at Freddy's by yourself is more than just a quick scare. It leaves you with a nagging sense of paranoia that can creep into your daily life. While you're immersed in the game, your senses are on high alert, constantly flicking through camera feeds, straining to catch every little sound, and bracing yourself for those inevitable jump scares. But that heightened awareness doesn't just turn off when you exit the game. After you're done, you might find yourself listening closely to every creak in your house, convinced that something is lurking in the shadows. Going to bed can turn into a real challenge, as your mind races with all the things that could be hiding in the dark corners of your room. You might feel an irrational need to keep all the lights on or find yourself checking the locks over and over. The animatronics' eerie gazes and sudden appearances stick with you, making you jump at your own reflection in a dark window or mistake everyday objects for something sinister. It's a deep-rooted anxiety that stems from the game's brilliant ability to make you feel completely vulnerable and isolated, a feeling that lingers long after you've put the controller down, leaving you wondering, why did I put myself through that? Playing Go Home Annie, crafted by Mopeful Games, left me with a heavy, lingering sense of regret that came straight from its unyielding psychological tension and the eerie, unsettling vibe it creates. As a solo player, the game's one-of-a-kind atmosphere, rooted in its distinctive SCP style and haunting sound design, intensifies to an almost unbearable level. You're not just playing, you're on high alert, your senses heightened, never quite sure if the next oddity will be a slight visual glitch in your peripheral vision, a spine-chilling audio clip that sends shivers down your spine, or a sudden, grotesque apparition that makes your heart race. The deep regret arises from my choice to dive into a game that thrives on making you question your own senses and sanity, all while being completely alone, with no one to validate what you're experiencing or to share in the growing tension. The act of carefully managing your stress levels while tiptoeing through those haunting, liminal spaces, aware that a single misstep, a missed clue, or a moment of doubt could lead to a truly disturbing and irreversible encounter, creates a profound and lasting sense of unease. Even after you've closed the game and stepped away from the screen, the chilling essence of Go Home Annie lingers on. Playing the Conjuring House alone was an experience I genuinely regret, primarily because it's a masterclass in relentless, unpredictable terror. This game isn't content with just a few scares. It feels like a constant, suffocating assault on your nerves. When you're investigating that decrepit mansion by yourself, every creak, every whispered sound, and the chilling visual distortions are amplified tenfold. The true horror stems from the game's principal antagonist, a demonic woman who is unpredictable and seemingly omnipresent. There's no safe room, no reliable pattern to her appearances, and no way to truly fight back. Your only option is to run and hide. This constant, debilitating uncertainty, combined with your absolute vulnerability, creates a profound sense of psychological dread that is far more potent when experienced in solitude. Each encounter feels like a personal violation, making you jump out of your seat and genuinely panic. The regret settles in afterwards as your mind struggles to shake off the oppressive atmosphere of the house and the lingering image of that terrifying entity. You find yourself still flinching at shadows, hearing phantom whispers, and feeling an irrational fear of being watched, realizing that you've willingly invited a truly disturbing and persistent fear into your own personal space without anyone to share the burden or pull you back from the brink of terror. Playing Dollmare alone was a decision I deeply regret because its creepy environment and insidious psychological horror truly burrowed under my skin. The game plunges you into a desolate, dimly lit doll factory where your job is to inspect unsettling dolls for defects, but the real terror comes from the pervasive atmosphere. The environment is a masterclass in quiet dread. Flickering fluorescent lights, the rhythmic, unsettling sounds of unseen machinery, and the disquieting knowledge that every doll you examine might not be quite right. The developers intentionally eschewed jump scares, instead relying on unscripted, subtly disturbing events and the constant feeling of being watched, which is amplified tenfold when you're the sole player. This leads to an excruciating, slow-burn tension where every anomaly, no matter how small, becomes a source of profound anxiety. After enduring the shifts in that factory, the regret kicks in as you realize how thoroughly the game has infected your perception of innocuous objects. You might find yourself seeing dolls differently or feeling an irrational chill in seemingly empty rooms, haunted by the quiet, unsettling presence of Dollmare's unique brand of terror long after you've escaped the factory. Playing the devil in its details, developed by Hideworks, alone left me with a profound sense of regret, primarily because it's a relentless assault on both your memory and your nerves within a truly hellish environment. This anomaly detection meets escape room meets survival horror. Hybrid is designed to keep you constantly off kilter. When you're trapped in that ever-changing mansion by yourself, the randomized cursed objects, the devilish traps, and the pranks thrown at you by demons become exponentially more terrifying. The regret isn't just from the jump scares or the physical threats, but from the constant psychological pressure of having to meticulously recall changes in your environment while simultaneously fending off disturbing entities. The game's unique mechanic of time is your health adds an agonizing layer of stress, forcing you to rush through a nightmare where every second counts. Playing it alone means there's no one to help you spot those subtle anomalies, no one to share the burden of the frantic pace, and no one to pull you back from the brink of frustration and fear. The experience leaves you hypervigilant, questioning every small shift in your own surroundings, and regretting having willingly entered such a chaotic and mind-bending hellscape in solitude. Playing Graveyard Shift, developed by Dark Phobia Games, was arguably the most terrifying gaming experience I've ever willingly put myself through. The regret isn't just about the jump scares, though there are plenty of those. It's about the sheer, suffocating psychological dread that becomes your constant companion when you're trapped alone in Whispering Wind Cemetery. The game masterfully uses its realistic graphics and unnerving 3D sound design to make every distant moan, every rustle of leaves, and every creak of an unseen mausoleum door feel like a direct threat. The most terrifying aspect is the way it preys on your absolute vulnerability and the constant feeling of being watched by unseen, malevolent entities. As Gary, you're utterly defenseless, constantly scanning surveillance cameras that show unsettling anomalies, only to realize those horrors aren't just on screen, but are actively stalking you within the graveyard itself. This realization, combined with the game's focus on creating genuine fear rather than complex puzzles, turns what initially seems like a routine job into a nightmarish ordeal. The fear isn't just about surviving the night. It's about grappling with the insidious dread that the cemetery itself is alive and hostile, leaving you with a deep, unsettling conviction that you've just endured a psychological nightmare from which you may never fully recover. Playing Hello Neighbor 2, developed by Eerie Guest Studios and Tiny Build, alone was arguably the most tense horror experience I've ever had, leading to a deep sense of regret. The game's premise, sneaking into houses within the seemingly idyllic town of Raven Brooks as an investigative journalist to uncover dark secrets, is deceptively simple, but the execution, particularly with its advanced, self-learning AI, is what truly elevates the terror. Unlike scripted enemies, the AI in Hello Neighbor 2 adapts to your every move, learning your preferred routes, hiding spots, and tactics. This means there's no predictable pattern to exploit, no safe corner to retreat to. The neighbor is constantly evolving, making each attempt to infiltrate their home a unique and heart-pounding gamble. When you're playing solo, this unpredictability creates an overwhelming sense of vulnerability and a pervasive feeling of being relentlessly hunted. Every creak of the floorboards outside your hiding spot, every shadow that shifts in the periphery, and the sudden, chilling sound of the neighbor's footsteps nearby sends a jolt of pure adrenaline through your body. The regret stems from the sustained, high-stakes tension that never truly dissipates, even after you've managed to escape. The game instills a deep-seated paranoia, making you second-guess your own surroundings and constantly feel as though you're being watched, long after you've exited the game. It's a psychological battle of wits that leaves you mentally exhausted and truly regretting the solo plunge into its uniquely intelligent and terrifying world. Playing Slender, The Arrival, developed by Blue Owl Studios and published by Blue Owl Publishing, alone was a decision I quickly came to regret because it excels at creating an inescapable sense of dread that not only permeates the gameplay, but lingers long after the credits roll. Unlike many horror games that rely on predictable jump scares, Slender, The Arrival plunges you into vast, dimly lit, and eerily silent environments with a constant, chilling knowledge that you are being relentlessly hunted by the elusive and terrifying Slender Man. When you're the sole player, the isolation is absolute, amplifying every single element of fear. Every distant static burst from your flashlight, every sudden visual distortion on screen, and the unnerving realization that Slender Man can appear anywhere, at any time, becomes a direct assault on your nerves. The regret stems from the relentless, psychological torment of being utterly defenseless against an unkillable, unfeeling entity, forcing you into a constant state of frantic panic as you try to collect scattered pages or navigate claustrophobic interiors, knowing that a single mistake means instant terror. Playing Resident Evil 7, Biohazard all by myself turned out to be a choice I deeply regretted. The game's brilliant switch to a first-person perspective, paired with a relentless and gut-wrenching brand of horror, hits differently when you're alone. As soon as I stepped into the rundown, eerie Baker Mansion in Louisiana, I was hit with a heavy sense of dread, heightened by the creepy sound design that makes every creak, groan, and distant growl resonate in your mind. It's not just the grotesque jump scares or the shocking body horror that haunt you. It's the unending chase by the twisted Baker family, who seem invincible and pop up from every shadow, turning every corner into a potential death trap. This feeling of being completely powerless and hunted, with no one to share the fear, weighs heavily on you. The isolation forces you to face every disturbing scene, every chilling discovery, and every terrifying encounter all on your own, leaving you with a nagging sense of unease. Even after I put the controller down, the horrifying images and the sensation of being trapped in that nightmare of a house stuck with me, making me wish I hadn't dived so deeply into such a profoundly unsettling and solitary survival experience.